Hey, welcome back to the weekly dance tutorial. I'm Ken, this is Bree. Today we're going to learn some Boogaloo foundation starting with the hip roll. This is something that I learned from a couple of dancers, one of them being Poppin' Pete. I'm not going to go into the history too much about it, but it is something that's like very well known in the popping foundation. I'm going to learn how to move our hips to do some Boogaloo hip rolls. Okay, so imagine your hip being separate from your body. Like if you're gonna move your hip, try to isolate everything else, right? Isolate your hip from everything else on your body, okay? First, we're just gonna work on the basic rotation. Let's start with leaning forward, okay? And I'm exaggerating it right now, but you wanna exaggerate at first and then kind of like tone it back to where it looks right, okay? So I'm pushing it out as far as I can. On the side, this is what it looks like. Boop. And if you notice, I have my shoulders pulled back, hip forward, and then my legs are shoulder width apart. Okay, so forward thrust, right? Forward thrust. And try not to like lean back. Focus more on the hip going forward. Okay, so forward hip thrust. And then depending on where you're facing, go to your right, which is your left.
Just like move it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you know how you move your hip forward? Now pretend that it's a separate piece of your body. Now try to take that piece and move it to your right. Exactly. So if you notice, once I went to my right, my shoulders are still lined up with my feet. And in order to do that, you actually have to lift this shoulder right here. Every time your hip goes this way or any direction, make your shoulders go the opposite way, okay? Because if I did forward, my shoulders went back so that this could go forward, okay? So if I go to the right, my shoulder's gonna go left. Exactly. And then,
do it?
Yeah,
okay.
You got it. Exactly, okay. So if you want, you can lift it even further to like make it even more exaggerated. Remember, you can always exaggerate it to just extend to see how far you can go and like dial it back if you need to. So from here, forward to the right, okay? And from here, we're gonna stick our butt out and arch our back like this. Pretend like somebody's pulling you back. So you have to like kind of bend over a little bit. So watch, bend over just a tad and then arch your back a little bit so that it looks like the top part of your body hasn't moved, but it did. Okay, so that's the back position of the hip roll. And your hands are still here. And guess what? My shoulders are forward instead of back because we're moving our hips back now. Okay, so one more time in the front. So front to the right, and then shoulder. And then from here, tuck it back. Yeah, like push back. And from the side, this is what it looks like. So forward, I went to the side, and now I'm back. And then you want to continue to the other side, which is left. Okay?
Is that right? Like this is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to feel it a lot right here in your obliques. So make sure you stretch before you do it. Okay? So from here, front to the right, back to the left, and the left is the exact opposite of the right, and that's just the hip part of it, okay? There's also your knees and your feet, okay? They also play a huge role in the roll. They play a huge role in the roll, okay? So if you can see my feet, I'm gonna back up just a little bit so you can see my feet. So what I've seen people do is sometimes people go on their toes, right, when they go to the forward one. I think this might be the traditional way of doing it, like going on your toes and then the heel. See how my heel and my toe swing back and forth? You don't have to do this, but I think some people do it, some people don't do it. I've seen people just lift their feet and their knees when they do it, like this, knees, like that. Some people sometimes don't even lift their feet at all, but you can definitely play around with that. So if you want, you can do toes, go on your toes for the front one, and then slowly roll it to the back, and now my toes are up, and then continue to the front. So you could do it like that, and then try it the other way. You see how I'm just using my feet to roll on them? It's like kind of like a way to really extend the hip, because if I exaggerate that, check it out, like you could be like over here and like overextend, and I'm on the sides of my feet like that. Okay, as long as the hip is separate and it's isolated, kind of like a little tornado happening just at the hip. Okay, so let's try a couple of hip rolls going clockwise. Okay, here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. Go forward, to the side, to the back, around town, and then just continue that. Yep, however fast you want to go, whatever's more comfortable for you. And notice my hands, I'm using them to balance. Okay, every time I go forward, they go back. Every time I go back, they go forward. Okay, and sometimes people just leave them here too, like that. Like it's almost like you're walking. See, because if you walk, your hip goes opposite of your arms. So if you do the roll, it could also be like that. And I'm kind of moving it in a circular motion to kind of counterbalance the hip roll. So you could do that. See, my hands go around. It's always opposite. That's what I've noticed, at least when a lot of people do Boogaloo, they do the opposite of whatever the hip is with their arms. So yeah, try that out. Go different directions, experiment with your arms. You could even be like up here, you know, and then when you get comfortable with the hip roll, try doing it at a lower level. Okay, try doing it at a lower level, and even lower if you want to exaggerate that. Okay, and then you could add a step, roll, step, roll, step. So that's like more traditional, where you add the walking and all that. Okay, so yeah, practice this foundation right here, just getting comfortable with isolating the hip and the shoulders. Okay, that's a Boogaloo hip roll. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. And if you want to learn about the history of the dance, there's plenty of info on the internet. And you could also ask your local dancers if they know anything about that. So yeah, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Practice hard, and we'll see you next time.